It's fun finding places on the ship that I can film. We're heading back to our Roman port, Civitavecchia. It's the closest port to the city of Rome, and that's our final destination. We've been at sea almost 13 days. Tomorrow will be 13 days. I'm at the stern of our cruise ship, and what you're hearing is the water being stirred up as we're cruising about 25 knots towards Italy. I thought it'd be appropriate to do one more devotion before getting off the ship, and it's that very well-known hymn, "It Is Well With My Soul," and the story behind that. Horatio Spafford got word that on the ship Havela de Javier, the ship was hit by an iron vessel, and that iron vessel crashed into the ship that his wife and 4 daughters were on as they were going over to England to minister with D.L. Moody. And we know the story fairly well because the hymn is so popular. But what happened was, as the ship sunk, 226 people died at sea, including Horatio Spafford's 4 children, daughters. And it was very tragic. So when the wife Anna Larson, she's Norwegian by birth, they got married in Chicago. When she got word, she sent a telegram to Chicago to her husband, who stayed behind to do some business work, and she simply said, "Saved alone." She was the only one of the children that survived, and of the family. So of course Horatio got on the nearest vessel, and this is the 1871, and met his wife in England to console her. You might call him the 1900s Job, with all the tragedy that took place in his life. Prior to the loss of his 4 daughters, his son had died that same year in 1871 of scarlet fever. He was 4 years old, so he not only lost a son, now he's lost his daughters. And so he's bereaved. And of course Anna, we never think about the mother, but she's probably just grief-stricken with all this trauma that took place in her life. And so on top of all that, in 1871, the spring of 71, Horatio invested large sums of money in Chicago's business district. Well, by the fall, October of 1871, that business district caught fire. It's called the Great Fire of Chicago, and it destroyed much of those businesses, which means that his money just went up in flames, and so he lost financially. He was a Presbyterian, very strong in the Lord, and had to wrestle with all these things. What is God doing in my life? On top of all that, it's still not over. Within about 8 to 10 years, he has a new family established, 2 daughters and a son. He named the son again Horatio after himself. It's now his 2nd son. At the age of 3, that son dies of scarlet fever, so he has no issue to carry on his name. He and his wife eventually settled in Jerusalem, and they worked to help the people, not just Jews, but Jews, Christians, and Muslims, doing wonderful work in the city of Jerusalem. And then at the age of 60, he died of malaria and is buried in Jerusalem. So life is full of dilemma and full of tragic sorrows. And we know that he wrote this most beautiful hymn. He didn't write the music, but he certainly wrote the words. Later on, Philip Bliss wrote, "It is well with my soul." He goes on to say, when life is like sea billows that roll and they roll over you, you can always say, "It is well with my soul." And he understood that. We know the hymn, and you can study that hymn on your own, and each of the 4 stanzas is very significant, dealing with how to embrace sorrow by trusting in the Lord and not losing their confidence, knowing that our eternal home is heaven, not the things here of this earth. We sometimes can get into this mold as evangelical Christians that everything is hunky-dory and it should be well with our soul as long as things are going well. But we have a God that sometimes places burdens and trials and pressures upon us. Where the Scripture says that tribulations and trials will follow us. We can't assume that we're going to have a bed of roses in our life. But what we can do is we can choose to embrace all those trials and take them to the cross as Jesus did with his Father. He embraced the cross. My friend John Elliott wrote a beautiful song called Embrace the Cross, and it deals with that issue, how to embrace the cross in the middle of things that don't make sense. And that's what took place in the life of the Spafford family. Let's be those kind of people that, yes, we want God's blessing and we want to see happy days and good days with ourselves and our children, but we want to also be people that if God sends trials that are like Job upon us, we can say as Job, I know that my Redeemer liveth and ever maketh intercession for me. We have not been deserted. I leave you with this word to pause and ponder.